Record on this.
Good job, Laura.
All right.
Only because you reminded me, everyone. Thank you. Writing all right now. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
I think it looks like most people are joining, Laura. There's one it looks like that's still stuck in the waiting room.
Let's see.
Now it's just joining though, so
We got one of two Heidi Hoffmans.
duplicates tonight. All right, you want me to go ahead and get started then? Should we start? Okay. Welcome to tonight's presentation. We're going to be learning about gardening for wildlife and water quality. My name is Laura Schultz. I'm one of the co-chairs for the local Sierra Club. We are the Southeast Gateway group. We're one of the groups helping with tonight. We also have our presenters tonight are going to be Laura and Christy from Root-Pike WIN and Regina and Joanne from Wild Ones. We're really excited to hear this presentation. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I hope you really enjoy it. I'm going to do a gentle plug that and I think all the organizations will be doing a gentle plug to join their organization if you're interested. If you'd like to learn more about Sierra Club, I welcome you to stick around after tonight's presentation, and I can answer some questions for you and tell you more about it. But with that, I'm going to turn this over to Laura and Christy from Root-Pike WIN, and they're going to start our presentation tonight on gardening for wildlife and water quality.
Thank you, Laura. Everyone can hear me and see everything okay? Cool.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, welcome and thank you so much for being here. And thank you to the Sierra Club and to Wild Ones for working with Root-Pike WIN and the Respect Our Waters program on this really fun event. So we're here tonight to learn about wildlife and water quality. Let me present. Oh. One moment, let me get you my whole screen here. Sorry, everybody. My whole thing just shut down right on me. Pull it back up here. All right, one moment. Okay. You could probably only see a portion of it, right? Will it open bigger? Does that look about right?
Now it does.
Okay, cool, welcome. Okay, so if you've seen or come to this event last year or something like it, you might have seen this graphic. I really like this graphic. I think it shows a lot about what water running through a watershed looks like. So if we remember the stormwater model, or we remember our water model, the water will evaporate from water bodies. It's going to condense and turn into precipitation, or it's going to turn from gas to liquid in rain. It's going to hit different surfaces where it might be infiltrated through plant life or wetlands. A lot of it's going to have different impervious surfaces, and it's going to run off, gathering whatever on top of that surface into water bodies where that process can restart. And today we're going to focus on different pollutants that affect water quality. So there's a lot of different pollutants that can affect water, but landscaping ones include things like grass clippings and leaves and soil, which I know sounds kind of funny because they're natural elements. So it's kind of funny to think, why is a natural element causing problems for another natural element? But the problem really comes into what those natural elements break into. So grass clippings and leaves and soil are all made up of phosphorus and nitrogen. And phosphorus and nitrogen feed lots of things. They feed your plant life, they feed your lawn, but they also feed algae and aquatic weeds. So then you've got nutrients that are feeding that algae's eating it all up. And as soon as the nutrients are gone, that algae is going to die and deplete all the oxygen in the water with it, causing conditions that everything around it cannot live in. So we lose fish, we lose different aquatic organisms, we lose plant life, and we have water that is not drinkable. And it really doesn't take very much of these grass clippings and leaves sitting on a storm drain biodegrading to cause algae. Only 1 pound of that nitrogen will cause that 70 pounds of that algae. So there's some really easy things about fertilizer too. That's your phosphorus and nitrogen in a bottle. So we have our grass clippings and leaves plus this fertilizer. And then we have right on the bottle of pesticides and herbicides. Those are chemical issues. So now we have poisonous substances going into the water as well. Anything that is attached to a plant or put on the water and then no longer can absorb it when it runs off or when it rains, it's just going to run off right into the waterways. And I know pet waste isn't quite the same as a landscape pollutant, but it's on a lot of personal and public landscapes. And it's really, I mention it because it's really difficult and bad for gardeners as well. So things like parasitic eggs, roundworms, E. coli, all of those things that are in pet waste, along with phosphorus and nitrogen, the same things that are going to feed that algae, they can persist in soils for years. So we always say, please pick up that pet waste so that it is makes your soil safer for you gardening, your kids running around, or your pets running around. The real issue is that all these things feed algae. So we're trying to stop that algae growth because that algae growth equals water that can't be used for drinking or for wildlife. It's kind of a funny thing, like, doesn't that water that goes down the storm drain get treated? It doesn't. So most of the time it's not treated, especially if you live in southeastern Wisconsin, it's not. So that wastewater is going to be treated, that storm water is going to go into the storm sewers and directly untreated into the nearest water bodies. So the main things that we can do, you're doing it, you're here tonight. We really appreciate you being here, learning about this. You're going to be able to take away a lot of really great things tonight to be able to practice these techniques to keep our waterways clean and to keep our wildlife safe. And then informing others is a really big, important part of that too. So you are doing the right thing tonight to be here and learning about these techniques. We would love for you to adopt your storm drain. If you have one in your neighborhood, we are hoping that you might be willing to adopt it and keep that clean from leaves and grass clippings. We have a storm drain sweep week this year. So alongside our stormwater week, we're going to be having people sign the pledge to keep their storm drain clean. And we're going to see how big we can make that. So please feel free to do that. But what can we do with all the lawn clippings and grass and leaves? Well, we can put it on our gardens and we can put it on our lawns for fertilizer. It's the same phosphorus and nitrogen that our fertilizers that we'd be paying for. Fall is the best time to fertilize. So you're kind of getting the best of all worlds, being able to get free fertilizer and do that at the best time of the year. All you have to do is mulch over your leaves, make them a little bit smaller, mulch over, you're cutting your grass and laying them on top. You can learn a lot more about the different ways to compost your leaves for future fertilizing at Respect Our Waters Leaf Management. And then, of course, going native is going to help because you don't need amendments with native plants. They are here. Christy's going to chat a little bit more about why a native plant doesn't need those types of amendments, but it's a really great preventative way to fertilize your gardens without having to actually fertilize anything. And then you've got a really great website here for yard chemicals, so you can see the different type of alternatives that you can have and how you can test your soil to see if you need any alternatives as well. For mowing, we've got really great ideas for keeping that water in your lawn to keep your grass green and then to keep the grass clippings on your lawn for fertilizing. So if you only cut that top third of your grass, you leave about 3 to 5 inches, it'll trap those grass clippings in there. It'll trap moisture in there, which is really nice. And then it's going to let it biodegrade slowly into your lawn, keeping your lawn green and not feeding that algae. Speaking of watering and saving that water and infiltrating that water, if you're going to be when you're watering your garden in the summer, watering in the morning is going to be the best opportunity. If you water later in the day and it gets hotter, you're going to be losing your water and your money as you're watering and it's evaporating into the air. And then watering 1 inch per week. So overwatering causes a lot of root rot. And just grass can't really absorb that much water. And then watering 1 inch per week, what you're doing is you're making sure that you're not doing a little tiny bit of watering every day. And that way, if you only water a little bit every day, you're only going to get a little bit of root growth. It's not going to effectively help that root really grow by watering deep and slow. One other method of removing pesticides and other different fertilizing chemicals is by integrated pest management. So looking at things in a hierarchy, looking at preventative care first. So something like a berry or something like making sure that you're planting native plants. So you're already looking for a resilient plant instead of trying to plant something from another country that doesn't, you need a lot of fancy amendments and it needs a lot of care and might have different pests to manage. And then you've got your biological controls and your mechanical controls. So your mechanical controls are going to be something like a barrier. So your weed barrier here, and then your biological controls are going to be using different pests to attack other pests, or very preventative and very specific. So knocking off that Japanese beetle into the water as opposed to spraying down something. When biological controls are needed, when chemical controls are needed, knowing how to do that and knowing how to do it at the right time and the right amount is really crucial to making sure that you're keeping everything around you safe and doing the least harm. So we do have a volunteer interest form here if you're interested in learning how to ID invasive plants and different pests and how to eliminate them in the safest way possible. And then on a larger scale, we are working with the Kenosha Regenerative Producers Group, and they are a group of regenerative farmers that are using these types of techniques on a larger scale. So they're doing things like crop rotation to make sure that they are not depleting nutrients on any specific area of their farm, or rotationally grazing their cattle so that the waste, the fertilizers being moved throughout the space. So doing different kinds of things on a larger scale. When we talk about soil and water, and we talk about the issues of landscaping, living near the water's edge, it's a beautiful thing to live on Lake Michigan, but we deal with a lot of very detrimental erosion issues. This is a house from Lake Michigan a couple of years ago that had to be moved due to falling in. And when we look at this on a large scale, we want to be able to plant things that hold those eroding soils away. So like this is Cliffside Park. This is in the Wind Point watershed or in Caledonia. And this park transformation from a lot of turfed area and eroding bluff lines being right on the coast has been transformed into a wetland that is now able to infiltrate that water before it has a chance to flow over those bluffs and take that soil with it. And thinking about it on our own personal landscaping terms, if we can infiltrate more water on our property before it has a chance to hit something like Cliffside Park, where it will eventually go and erode those bluff lines away, that's going to be the best start of action that we can have to make sure that we're not eroding our beaches away. So things like infiltrating more water through catching it in rain barrels to use it at other times, or putting our plant life near our downspouts, using rain gardens, different techniques, because native plants really are going to be a huge answer to infiltrating more of that water so it doesn't have a chance to pick up all of those water pollutants from our landscaping stuff and head out into our waterways, causing those issues. And so I'm going to hand it over to Christy, who's going to be able to share a little bit more about the power of native plants and how they have that awesome absorbing superpower.
Thank you, Laura. So I'm Christy. I focus on stormwater and then pollinator populations, and native plants are kind of that beautiful meet in the middle point. So what is a native plant? It is evolved in a location without any type of human intervention. So these are our plants that have grown here naturally in Wisconsin. They were here before any type of European settlement. So these are the plants that our indigenous cultures are really, they lived with and they ate and they used as medicine. And the beautiful thing about native plants is they are your most climate resilient option. And that's because they have been here for so long. So they have been here with big periods of drought followed by these large storm events. And really their climate resiliency comes from these beautiful deep root systems. So looking across Wisconsin, we have a lot of different types of native plants depending on where you live. But since most of us are down here in southeastern Wisconsin, our primary land types are going to be prairie, oak savanna, which still is similar to a prairie, but then adds in a little bit of that canopy cover with native oaks. And then also southern mesic forest is when it gets, is a true forest with a lot of closed canopy. So it really, the amount of sunlight is going to alter which plants you would want to install. So here are by no means an exhaustive list, but these are some of my favorite ones to use when I'm working with elementary schools and all schools through our pollinator patch program. Those are typically full sun situations. And I try to pick these plants because they are more resilient for a lot of different soil types, because I want to make sure stuff is going to establish quickly, so people can really start to appreciate how beautiful native plants are. And you want to have them blooming as early in the spring as possible, all the way through the latest in the fall as possible, because that's going to better support our pollinators, which I'll get to. One quick thing to touch on is natives versus nativars. So when in doubt, opt for your local genotype and your true native species. Purchase from wild ones because they have the true native species. You can see on the left-hand side, that's a pale purple coneflower, what you would have seen growing in prairies for many years, versus a nativar is when they take that coneflower and start to tweak the genetics to stuff that us humans like to see more. So it might be bigger blooms, a longer bloom time, disease resistance, brighter colors. And specifically how that works with pollinator populations is what they know is that the more manipulated that the plant is, the less interest that it has from pollinators. From really what I've been able to read, it's kind of across the board. The one study I read into, they looked at 14 different species, compared the true native to a nativar, and they found that about half of them delivered similar nutrition and pollinators visited them the same amount. So really it's kind of up in the air with each species. So I come back to just pick your natives, so we know that they'll be resilient here and they'll support our wildlife. So linking it back to water quality, because we are a water quality nonprofit, first and foremost at Root-Pike WIN. When we have more native plants in our landscape, you're going to have better water quality. And it comes down to these root systems here, specifically with prairie plants. Their root systems are getting 6 to 15 feet below the ground, versus if you compare that to turf grass over here in the red square, we're only getting a few inches below the ground. So when we get these rain events, much less water is being infiltrated. And the one statistic that I really like is from the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. They say that a square foot of native plants manages about 0.4 gallons of stormwater per event. So if you have 20 square feet of lawn, you're getting about 1 gallon infiltrated, versus that same 20 feet, if it's planted with deep-rooted native plants, you're going to get about 8 gallons infiltrated per storm. And that all comes down to prairie plants have about 70% of their biomass are actually under the ground. So much is happening in the soil that we don't think about. This is another graphic that I really like from NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Basically, the darker the color in all of these little sub watersheds that they have broken down means the more manicured turf cover that is in that sub watershed. And the more turf cover, they use that as an indicator of poor water quality for all of those reasons that Laura explained at the beginning. So the ask is really convert your unused turf or problem areas back into these native landscapes, especially if you have these yucky, squishy areas like you can see on the screen, or really steep slopes, or just annoying places to mow. Completely eliminate mowing by putting natives in there. You can stop using chemicals and you'll get more stormwater infiltrated back under the ground, giving us a more robust and healthy watershed. Within the United States, it's said that we have about 40 million acres of lawn, which is our biggest monocrop that is doing absolutely nothing for us, our water quality, or our wildlife. So one example of where we've helped do this switch through our pollinator patch program, this is Summers Elementary School. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, it is just a squishy mess there. The grass won't grow. The kids are always muddy. They can't play there. So we decided to put a pollinator patch right there. It was about 2,300 square feet. And each storm event, that's going to infiltrate about 920 gallons of stormwater using that MMSD statistic. So right at the bottom of that slope, there's a storm drain. So we put the natives there to clean up the playground, give the kids something to study. It's an outdoor laboratory. And then also, hopefully they'll be seeing lots of bees and butterflies this year. So our native plants support our native ecosystems. I know the change that I've seen in my own yard since putting native plants in. I'm seeing more bees, more butterflies, more birds, and overall just more insects. I was excited to see a grasshopper in my yard for the first time, now that it's not just plain turf grass. And why that's important, our native plants are supporting our native wildlife, mainly because they're providing better nutrition at the correct time for these species. So 2 examples that I really like are for our bumblebee populations. So if you think about end of June into July, that's when we're seeing our peak bumblebee populations. And it's also when we're seeing peak floral blooms when you are looking out in a prairie and just really throughout the landscape anywhere. Another example is with shrubs and berry bushes. So native shrubs and the fall berries they produce tend to have higher fat concentrations, while invasive berries like buckthorn or mulberry, they're going to have higher sugar concentrations. So just by planting our native shrub species, you can help the birds kind of chunk up for the winter. So if they're either going to be staying around or if they're going to be off on a long migration, they need to have good food just like we do. Now I'm really going to dig into bumblebees, specifically the rusty patch bumblebee. So their populations have shrunk by 87% over the last 20 years. They are a federally endangered bumblebee. And this map that you're looking at right here is from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And the red areas are high priority zones where the rusty is likely to be. Yellow are lower priority zones. And if we were looking at this map about 20 years ago, all of these red and yellow dots would have swooped all the way through the Midwest, all the way up to New York. But by taking away their habitat and the use of all of these chemicals, they've shrunk. Douglas Tallamy, who I'm sure many of you know, says that native plants should be at least 70% of our landscape if we really want to get our ecosystems back on track to support important species like the rusty patch bumblebee. So quickly, wanted to show you the bumblebee life cycle. So a lot of focus is on honeybees, which are non-native. I really like the bumblebees because they're native to our area and they love our native plants. Not everybody knows that your queen nests underground in the winter. And then when she pops up in the spring, she is very, very hungry. So 2 things that you can do, focusing in on your garden. Don't forget your overwintering habitat. So if you have extra leaves and leaf piles, brush piles, I like to scoop mine into the corner of the yard. That's all really great insulation for them when they like to burrow underground. Also, just leaving some areas of bare ground, because 70% of our native bees are going to be ground nesters. And if you have feet of mulch or landscape fabric, that's like concrete to them, and they cannot get underground to properly hibernate and then restart their populations. The other thing is you can put bee boxes in there or just leave your hollow stems, leave your plants alone for the fall. We have to resist the urge to tidy up because 30% of our native bees are going to be cavity nesters. And like you can see on the right-hand side, they can just crawl right in there. Then when they reemerge in the spring, it is really important that we continue to not touch our gardens, even when it gets beautiful out. So leave your garden alone until it is at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 7 days in a row. And at that point, all of our pollinators should be up out of the ground. It's safe to start cleaning up. And then hopefully we have some spring ephemeral species in there, which I know Wild Ones is really going to dive into more. But these are 3 examples. They're blooming really early in April, May, so that way our hungry bumblebee queens can feed. And all of these are available through the Wild Ones plant sale that is open right now. And to wrap up, what we know is that it is working. So this is a rusty patch bumblebee nest. If you follow Root-Pike WIN, this was a huge moment of excitement for us this year when a rusty nest was found along the south branch of the Pike River. And that's kind of right in between some of these larger restoration sites. Hawthorne Hollow, UW Parkside are nearby, and they have a lot of foraging habitat. So it does work. If we bring the plants back, we can bring back our pollinators. And last slide, I always like to plug the Bumblebee Brigade. So if you are interested in kind of taking that next step in bumblebee conservation, or if you're someone who likes to take pictures in your yard, you can join the Wisconsin Bumblebee Observers Facebook group. That's a great place for just support to learn how to identify. But the Bumblebee Brigade is a Wisconsin DNR citizen science program, and they just ask for pictures of bumblebees. So it's very easy, and that will help kind of guide our conservation plans to help our pollinators more. And with that, I will hand it over to Joanne.
Thank you so much. Let me make sure I can share my screen. All right, can you see it? All right. Well, I wanted to thank, good evening, everyone. I wanted to thank Root-Pike WIN and the Sierra Club for including us tonight with their Gardening for Wildlife event. We're very, very grateful for the opportunity to talk about native plants and our sale. I'm Joanne Sostrachek, the current native plant sale coordinator for the Wild Ones River chapter of Southeast Wisconsin. Just a little blurb about our chapter. It was formed, well, Wild Ones was actually formed in 1977 by Lori Otto. She was also instrumental in getting DDT banned. Our chapter was formed in 2000 by Nan Calvert and Carla Freeman. They both kind of had the idea at the same time that they wanted to have a chapter here in southeastern Wisconsin. We're one of 86 chapters and 31 seedlings in 34 states. So they are really, really expanding, and that makes me very happy. I joined in 2002 after we finished building our house in Union Grove, because I had a whole blank slate and I really wanted to find out what I could do to help wildlife. What I wanted to do is what we're talking about tonight. So, I have clay soil in my yard. I feel like I have to admit something. One of the things that I wanted to mention was when I was getting ready to start landscaping, a coworker of mine actually mentioned that I should plant things that aren't in everybody else's yards. And that's because, you know, biodiversity is really important when nature is stressed out. Like, for instance, if a blight was going through and like all the classic landscaping, conventional landscaping might wipe out the plant, but if you have a native plant, it would be more resilient to that kind of stress. I included a small pocket prairie in our yard, and later I added a rain garden in 2009 with the help of a Root-Pike WIN grant, actually. Okay, here we go. All right, it worked. Okay, native plants are not just functional, but can also be beautiful. Lawn is just another monoculture. There are a multitude of native plants adapted to various sun, moisture, and soil conditions. There's a native plant out there just waiting for the perfect spot in your yard. Tonight, I'm going to focus on my favorite native plants that thrive in clay soil. So here we have wild petunia, and this one usually gets started around June and lasts until August. We have yellow coneflower. That one starts in July and ends blooming around September. And prairie phlox. This one starts a little bit earlier in May and goes until July. And one of the things I just wanted to point out is prairie phlox is actually the native phlox, and it has 5 petals. And if you see one with 4 petals, that is probably Dame's rocket and is invasive, and you should yank it out of your yard. All right, next. I just wanted to also stress the importance of including different varieties of native forbs. Those are the flowers that bloom throughout the season, because you really want to remember to have biodiversity when planting your native garden so that you have food all season long for the native pollinators. All right, the next one that I wanted to show was Ohio spiderwort. This one blooms from May to July. And then we have the asters and the goldenrods. These ones are later in the fall. Asters bloom from August to October, and goldenrod actually from September to November. And I think these are easy to grow too. Here's our two new easy to grow natives for beginners. We have American Columbine and Wild Geranium, and these get started early. These bloom in Columbine starts in April and blooms till about June, and the geranium about the same, April to July. So I'm just going to mention, Christy also mentioned this, that there's many pollinating insects that have co-evolved with special native plants, and they can't survive without them. And monarchs are a huge example of this insect-plant relationship. Without milkweed plants, there wouldn't be any place for the monarch to lay eggs on to start its life cycle, and no food for the hatching hungry monarch caterpillar. And I just wanted to mention that I really have noticed a decline in seeing butterflies flying around. And these are just four different types of milkweeds. They are all, you know, beautiful and different in their own way. Swamp milkweed is good in wetlands. Common milkweed's a little bit aggressive in small landscapes. I wouldn't recommend it. There's a less aggressive variety called prairie milkweed that might be more suited for a smaller landscape. I just wanted to show you a few pictures of my pocket prairie. I just love the biodiversity in it. You can go out and see different things throughout the season. It's just beautiful. I'm very happy that I included that as part of my landscape. I also wanted to mention our native vine, Virgin Spower. It's just beautiful. We have it growing on our deck, and it just gives such beautiful blossoms that the pollinators just love. And I also wanted to note that I haven't noticed less pollinators on these flowers lately. Oaks do really well in clay soil. I have 4 different types of oaks that I'm growing in my yard. I'm attempting to maybe do like an oak savanna. I have bur oak, red oak, pin oak, and swamp white oak, and they are all doing very well. I don't have any problems with them. I've had them growing for a few years now. And then I just wanted to, I guess I just wanted to end with native shrubs. Just some of my favorite native shrubs. The one thing that I wanted to mention that's great about native shrubs is that, you know, when I see all the conventional landscaping and flowering, you know, spring flowering shrubs, they usually are sterile and you get the blooms and that's it. But with a native shrub, you get the beautiful blooms. And then at the end of the season, you get berries that are very nutritious for birds. So, you know, that's why I feel it's very important to include shrubs in your landscape as well. So here's my one black chokeberry. I also really love service berries. You get beautiful blooms. They're like one of the first spring blooming shrubs. You get beautiful blooms, and then you get berries, which I think start forming in June. There's another name for them. It's called June berries. And then beautiful, gorgeous fall colored. What more could you want from a shrub, right? Another one is native shrub that I love is American filbert. These do really well in clay soil as well. Here you can see on the left, those are the male catkins that fertilize the female flowers. And then again, it has beautiful fall color. And these are the nuts on the right hand side picture. And we have ours located next to our 3-season room, and my husband sees blue jays coming and stealing the nuts when they're ripe. And it just makes me feel good that I'm providing sustenance for another creature. And then last, I wanted to mention viburnums, nannyberry. Again, you get beautiful flowers, and then at the end of the season, you get berries, fruit for birds to eat, and gorgeous fall color. So I'm gonna change the screen over to Regina, and Regina's actually has the opposite soil that I do. She has sand soil. So Regina, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Did you stop?
Sorry.
And Regina, if you share your screen, yeah, it'll probably knock Joanne's off.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do. Let's see. Huh. Oh. Oh, we get, okay, here we are. So, basically, I just grabbed an Instagram I made, and it kind of follows it follows the native plantings I did in my yard. And what's funny is you will see a lot of overlap between mine and Joanne's, even though my soil is very sandy. So to begin with, I did I really am attracted to interesting foliage, not just the flowers. So I've got the prairie smoke and the anise hyssop, and also golden groundsel. So this has like a pink fuzzy flower, and this has a purple. So right above, this is the purple anise hyssop, and golden groundsel is golden. It's yellow flowers. And so here, overlap with Joanne, I have 3 filberts in my front yard. So I made my front yard kind of a native plant food forest. So I have pawpaw trees and filberts and other things with berries. And then I have there's also asters and yeah, I'm blanking on what else is there, but maybe we'll figure that out. So there's also a lot of the wild geranium. And again, I mean, the flowers are pretty, but again, I was really attracted to the leaves. And they also do well there, and they combined very nicely with the golden groundsel. So very early in the season already, you have like yellow and purple, and then two different kinds of leaves right in the front. Shooting star is another one that it likes the sand and the sun. And you'll see here, so when I'm starting an area too, I just load it down with cardboard and mulch. I don't use any plastic. I don't use any Roundup. I don't use any of that. And I've had really, really good success. So this was this guy's first year, but now as we go through this, you'll see like this is by the roadside. So here, when you blow these up, they don't. So you can see there's a lot of mulch there, but there really isn't anymore. I compost the area, and I do put some mulch, but you really don't see it anymore. This is lance leaf coreopsis. It's also growing curbside, and it grows very well with the harebells. See, that's backyard. So I also have the prairie phlox. And I made my I made a little what do you call a moniker? So it was like, hey 5, stay alive, hey 4, out the door. Just to teach kids how to distinguish between the phlox you want and the phlox you don't. And this is butterfly weed, which also does super well in the sand. Minarda does too, and there's a lot of it in my yard. And these Joanne has as well, the gray-headed coneflower. And in my yard, they get super, super tall. I also have the world milkweed. And here again in the front, you can see this is curbside. And this was, I think this was the first year after planting. So you can still see some mulch. But I have found many monarch chrysalises on these world milkweed. They just love it. So that's just a regular, and then you have the pale purple coneflower. What are those? So I haven't been seeing as many monarchs as I did just a couple of years ago. I used to see, you know, like on the liatris in my front yard here, I might have, you know, 4, 5, or 6 of them, each on a different flower. The last couple of years, it's only been 1 or 2 at a time, but they are still coming, just not as much, you know, as they were. Also Joe Pyeweed. And I do still get a lot of bees. I think they're all pretty common. The brown belt. I'm not very good at getting photos of them, but here I'm going to show you this. This is the anise hyssop, and it's covered with bees from the time it blooms until, you know, fall. I don't know if you can see them flying around here, but that's pretty much what they always look like. So it's been a pretty aggressive spreader in my yard, but everywhere it goes, the bees come. So I don't really dig much of it up. I just kind of let it go, and as long as I can protect other things that I really want in the yard. Rattlesnake master, you know, also. Let's see if this liat. No, this only has 1 too, but I get a lot of birds because I have a lot of and since I've done this too, I don't use I don't use any herbicide. I don't use any pesticide. I don't, you know, even if I'm growing vegetables or whatever, I just the beds in the back of my yard are all surrounded by native plants, and I don't add anything. I put compost down every year, but that's it, and I get a pretty great yield. So what else? Ironweed. Let me see. There's a better. And I also have the same. So the Virgin's Bower also does very well in the sandy soil, and it's taken over my entire back fence. So I've got like a 35-foot area in the back of the yard that's all Virgin's Bower and these beautiful white flowers in the fall. So that's nice. Here we got it. Oops. A lot of New England aster. They're also very, very happy in the sand. And they work well with the Monarda. The brown-eyed Susan. These have taken over a little bit in the front, and they this last summer, because I just didn't get around to anything, they were growing in between the sidewalk and the wall of the house as well. So they're very hardy, but they're usually covered too with all different kinds of bees and things. Here's another. So showy goldenrod, and this again is on the curb. So this is right at the street. And so the other reason I did this is I'm on Main Street in Racine, and so I have grasses and other things there too, so that you get that root system, because everything in my yard runs straight into the lake. And there are signs on my sewers that tell you that. So I've planted a lot of, well, yeah, one whole part of the front yard all the way to the street is native plants. And a lot of these, when I go on walks, I take pictures, so not all of these are in my yard. And then I don't understand why people take out common violets. I mean, I have a whole big section in my yard, and the common violets have taken over, and they're so beautiful in the spring. And again, I see bugs out there all the time, very happy. Plus they're the Wisconsin state flower, so why would you get rid of them? Here's more of the pale purple coneflower. This is another big favorite of mine. It's the lead plant. And again, what attracted me more than anything was the leaf shape. But it's doing very well in sand. And the prairie clover. So this is where I started, in the front right here. And you can see it's just got a kind of a border around it. The street is over here to the left. Here's the sidewalk. There's some New Jersey tea and a bunch of little plants, forbs and whatever. This is what it looks like today. Well, actually, this was a couple years ago. Now it's even fuller. There's white baptisia growing. Here it is. That's on the corner. So it's gorgeous. And what's kind of fun is that I have a weirdly raised yard, but there's a concrete form in between on the other side of the sidewalk, and people will sit there and just kind of look at things, which I'm perfectly okay with. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, there's my daughter eating a sandwich. Yeah, most of this is not my yard, but yeah, that was kind of the progression of it. I have some of the columbine now and viburnum. I have Raffinesque viburnum, which is a smaller one. I have 3 of those in the backyard, and lots of common milkweed. So here's that cream white indigo again, and that's in the that's right on the street.
Regina, it's so neat to see that you can do so much with such a small amount of space.
Yeah. Yeah, I just stuff it in. but they're very happy together. You know, nothing's really crowding anything else out. And things go pretty well, like, you know, starting to bloom in the spring and blooming all summer long and then coming up again. There's always something a little different. There are some things I have to move around. Some of my asters went crazy. And they're very, very tall. It's the tall white aster. And last year I cut them down in the middle of the season so they wouldn't get quite that tall, and that was better. But the front yard looked like kind of a white powder puff, which was cool, but not what I was going for at all. So, but yeah, there's fox sedge here, also very happy. And I never pick up a leaf unless I'm picking it up out of the gutter and putting it somewhere in the yard.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, we have somebody in the waiting room. Well, I have two winners if we're ready to announce, but we also have a special announcement from Joanne. We'll let her hop on.
I just wanted to end with, I guess it's my slide about this, oh, yes, okay. Where is my slide? Oh,
That should stop sharing.
yeah, I just don't know where's my PowerPoint?
While Joanne's getting the slide up, I'll call out the two winners. So it was Lynn and Mary Woolart. So if either of you would like to message me your email, I can reach out to you and get you your gift card.
Ooh, thank you.
You're welcome, Mary. Thanks for coming. Do you know how to work the chat box?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
I think I found.
And don't leave everybody because everybody gets something tonight.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to finish. I just wanted to say that our chapters host the annual native plant sale, and we've moved to an online store format from Excel spreadsheets, and I love it. We just opened up our website for pre-orders on February 1st. Plants ordered on the website are picked up. They're ordered on the website now, and then they're picked up later in May. We're actually bumping up the plant sale pickup date because of increasingly warm temperatures. So they can be picked up on Saturday, May 18th. At Dane Hill Farm. That's my new farm. Just another thing to announce to everybody. I just retired and I'm starting a new venture as a new farm. So wish me luck. I'll need it. Just a quick blurb that, you know, when you buy a plant, the profits go into Cherokee Prairie Preservation Fund. We love to support them. They're a beautiful area to go visit. I would recommend it. And we also are giving out grants to local nonprofits. We've been able to give, I was just going to ask Christy, didn't we give you one?
Yes, you did for Indian Trail High School
Yeah,
last year.
thought that you were one of them. So I feel like, you know, it's all good. You buy native plants and you put them in your yard, and then we get profits, and it creates more native plants. So all good. So I just wanted to say for tonight's event, I just created a special code just for everybody to use. This is just some kickoff thing we wanted to try. It's just going to be good for a week. And it's GFW 2024. So I will put that in the chat box. Let's see, GFW 2024. And it should be active and able to use. We also are letting everybody know if you want to join our chapter, where you can get another discount code for the plant sale. Plant sale committee members receive a huge 20% off because we appreciate that they help us, and there's still time to volunteer because it's only February and the plant sale is in May. So if anybody wants to join our chapter and become a plant sale committee member, we are more than happy to have you. So I think that was it.
And we have a couple of questions. So we can start with the first one, which was, What are your thoughts on planting clover instead of grass? I have two and need space for them, but want to replace our grass. So clover instead of grass. Or maybe a native version of a
Yeah,
low.
I comment that, clover's not native. And again, just go back to biodiversity. It's best to have, different things, not just like one thing. It would almost be like you're replacing the lawn with the clover is a monocrop and it's not native. I mean, I know pollinators love it, but it's the best diet for them is native plants. So.
And there are a lot of sedges that you can, grow. And native grasses that grow lower. You can replace your whole lawn with, like Pennsylvania sedge is a good one. And you can vary the grasses. So you can have areas that look more like lawn, but then you can do borders with like a little blue stem and prairie drop seed, which are really fun, and they're very nice colors. They're really great shape, I would be careful with the bigger grasses. They can be really aggressive, but the smaller ones are great.
We have a message from Kate saying she loves the numbers on the runoff reduction, Christy, and she needs that info in her ongoing fight with Pleasant Prairie through her oak savanna restoration. So if you want to toss those numbers to Kate in the chat box, she'll have that for her. She also says the runoff reduction numbers. So probably how much info the MMSD maybe.
Okay.
And that we need more group garden visits. So maybe that's something we want to talk about in the future, is a group garden visit or something. Let's see. For those crazy white asters, never mind. That is not a question. Sorry. I think those are all of our questions. Yep. Kate was wondering about those runoff reduction numbers. Perfect. Thank you, Christy. Think the last question was, it wasn't a really question, it was talking about Caledonia and what they allow in their ditches, and that this person recently did a proposal asking them to allow native grasses and forbs in ditches. So anyone can contact them to request the same thing, and that's in the chat box as well. Any other questions from the group?
No, the other thing I was going to mention, I looked it up in between time before the meeting started. I was
Sorry.
I think you're breaking up. Did we lose? Sorry, Regina, were you speaking?
Yeah, I was just saying that before the meeting started, I was mentioning, one argument against lawns is the argument against lawnmowers and other implements, and I looked it up. So depending on what statistic you're using, it's anywhere between 70 and 85,000 injuries per year from lawnmowers, and many of those injuries are to children. So it's another good reason not to have a lawn. Yeah, somebody's asking for I know it's in Doug Tallamy's first book. I'll also look with the Department of Public Health. They probably have it, or the U.S. Public Health Service.
And wrapping up, Regina, you might like my sticker that says abolish lawns.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think we've answered everything on here, but if anybody else has more questions, feel free to reach out. I'll pop my email in the chat box here too. And I can connect you with anybody on here. So or if anybody else would like to pop their emails in the chat box, that works as well. So. And I hope everybody gets to check out the native plant sale and buy some beautiful things for their lawns that will help all of our native pollinators. Because hearing that there's less is hurting my heart.
Native plants are going to save the world. I just had to mention that.
Mhm. And it'll look great while doing it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys so much. And we'll put this recording up on different websites. I'll share it with you, Joanne, Regina, and Laura, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks
Great,
for
thank
doing
you.
this, Laura and Joanne and Regina. This was awesome. And
Yeah,
thanks
thanks for
inviting the
inviting
Sierra
us.
Club. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who came tonight. It was great to see you all.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks to the Sierra Club for hosting.
Oh, no problem. We'll host anytime.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.